this stuff we talk about. Like, who wants to talk about the damn weather? You know, it's like, this is real life. This is stuff. Yeah. This is the coolest thing ever. I love it. And the worst part is there's a video of it around there.
Oh, I have to see this.
No, you don't.
No, 100% I have to see this. Who wants to see it?
Welcome to the Wild Roads. I'm Shona Lee.
And I'm Paula Ivy. Join us for conversations about how we don't do stuff normal.
How we choose the wild roads of life. We want to show you all that's fun and possible, building businesses, making money,
navigating relationships and parenting, things we nerd out about,
and running at our wildest dreams. Press record.
I have. We're rolling. And
it's gonna be a doozy today, I can tell. Oh, geez. Okay, get your shit together, Shona. Let's do it.
All right, the question for today. Shona, I would love to know, what song brings back a really awkward memory for you? Because, like, you know how you listen to a song and it, like, can transport you, like, back in time to a specific moment. You're like, oh, every time I hear this song, it reminds me of. But I want to hear, like, a moment that was super awkward.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Or uncomfortable or, like, embarrassment.
This is probably one that stands out for me. Obviously, I've got lots of cringeworthy songs where I can't even listen to them. If it comes on the radio, I just turn it off. It's just like, it reminds me of that boy. It reminds me of what I said to, like, to that boy, whatever. I just turn them off. But this is my cringy story. All right. So we're talking about early 90s, right? Yeah. And I was a dancer. And so I was, dance concerts every year with your dance teacher, and we put on this production, and I also had singing lessons, right? And I thought I was going to be this amazing famous singer. And yeah, totes not. And
I've never heard you sing. I think I need to hear you sing though. You can't be worse than me. I'm literally the worst.
Oh, no. I don't know. It was just, after a drink or two, when we're having a celebration, Simon gets out the guitar and I think I sound like Lady Gaga, but I don't. Anyway, so getting back to the story,
you put their finger up to your ear and like wail it out. You know, the singers, they put their like, yeah. And harmonize.
This is the voice. Anyway. Anyway, I had my cringy story is this, right? Think early 90s. I'm a teenager. I want to be cool. Kylie Minogue was out. She was cool, and Roxette, and just these cool chicks, right?
Oh yeah.
And we're putting on this production, and my singing teacher and dance teacher merged to put this concert together, and they had, obviously there was these two students called, were the oldest, Shona and Pauline, and they said, all right, we want to do this really cool dance, this song where Shona and Pauline stand out the front and they sing. And
wait, the other girl's name was Pauline?
Yeah.
Shut up!
Why? What?
Well, I'm Paula.
Oh, Paula, I get crossed up. Shona and Pauline. So Shona and Pauline, yes. Oh my God, that's funny. That's hilarious. Anyway, Shona and Pauline, and we want them to be at the front, and we'll have dancers in the back, and we'll have strobe lights because, early 90s, strobe lights, and, it'll be so amazing. And oh my gosh, Pauline and I were just like so excited that, oh my God, we're going to make it. Like, this is the start of our career. Like, we're 13, 14, thinking we're,
it's your moment.
It's our moment, right? We're going to have dancers. We're going to be at the front of the stage. Anyway, so we go to rehearsals and to find out what our song is, and the dancers had been learning this song before we'd even been given the song to sing. And you know what? Oh God.
Tell us.
they gave us the song, and it was Ghostbusters. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. Yeah.
No.
It was terrible. And we died because, like, all our dancers were, like, younger and we didn't realize that. And then it was just like, Ghostbusters wasn't even in that era anyway. It was so old-fashioned then.
Oh.
And it was awful. And, you know, that song's made for a 30-year-old guy. So us singing it was just, like, so flat, so low. And we're just, like, turning to each other, our finest moments, turning at each other to go, I ain't afraid of no ghosts. Like, really low, because that's the key it was in. I ain't afraid of no ghosts. It was awful. And the worst part was, and why it was cringeworthy was because the schools came to watch the concerts for the matinees. And, man, the guy that I had the biggest crush on was coming to watch. Oh. So, as you can tell, it was just like a dorky moment that's my cringeworthy story. It's awful.
Ghostbusters theme is a very different vibe to, like, a Kylie Minogue number or a
exactly. Oh my gosh. It was, you know what, we just wanted to die, because the worst part was there was strobe lights in the background, so the dancers with that fluoro blue and, you know, making the moves and that. But there was the big stage spotlight on Shona and Pauline. Like, man.
Focus on Shona and Pauline.
And the worst part is there's a video of it around there. So
I can't see this.
No, you don't.
No, 100% I have to see this. Who wants to see it?
Well, I had the Roxette hairstyle going on, the short and the spiky. It was just,
oh, hell yeah,
mate. I was feeling the rock chick thing, singing Ghostbusters.
Best story ever. I can't top that. I thought mine was cringeworthy.
No,
that's
come
like,
on, I want to hear it. I got to hear
next
it.
level. I should have gone first. This girl let down. Okay, so this was when my husband and my now husband Brendan, we've been together 16 years now. We actually celebrate our 6-year wedding anniversary.
Oh, it's special. Congratulations.
I know, it's been a ride. It's been a ride. But this, oh my God, I'm getting nervous just talking about it. When we first started dating, way back in the early 2000s, so I was at home, and at this time when we first met, I was living in a shared house with my brother and a couple of his friends, because my brother was moving out of home, and I was like, you cannot leave me at home with mum and dad on my own, because he'd moved out a few years before that and left me there. And I was like, don't ever do that to me again, because then he came home and lived with us for a little bit. And then he's like, yeah, I'm moving out again. I'm like, take me with you. And he's like, okay. So anyway, we were in this shared house, and I was up in my bedroom upstairs, and because there was other people at home down on the lower level, when Brendan came to pick me up to go out, he was with one of his best mates as well. So there was him and another guy that this happened in front of. And so, yeah, one of my roommates let them in when they came to the door. So I didn't actually know that he was in the building, right? And I was in my bedroom. Door was closed. Music was pumped way up while I was getting ready. And I didn't hear them knock.
Oh, God.
And so Brendan decided to open the door. I was fully clothed. It was not a nudity situation.
Yeah.
Okay. I was fully clothed, but I wish I was nude, because it would have been less embarrassing. So his best mate are there, right? They've opened the door. And, like, when Brendan and I first met, like, he still is, but, like, I was like, he's such a cool guy. Like, he was so cool. Like, he was alternative. He was, like, a bit grungy, because, like, being a kid of the 90s, like, grunge is so hot. And so was his friend, and, like, you know, I was kind of like, I was cool, but like I was still very much a dork as well at the same time, right? So I had an obsession, and I still do, and this is kind of like a guilty pleasure of mine. I have an obsession with 80s and 90s pop songs. Like,
oh, yeah.
And I had what we were talking about last week with P's Sick Mix.
Yeah.
I had my own Sick Mix going on my CD player. I had a CD where I had, you know, put a collection of 90s songs together, and I was listening to that. And he probably walked in on the most embarrassing song on that whole CD.
What was it?
And I was like singing, I was dancing around, I was like fully into the song. The song was like the least cool song. The song was Baby Baby by Amy Grant.
Oh,
you know that one?
Yes. Oh my God.
Baby, baby. Na 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 na, like so girly. And I was like, they were like in the doorway, like Star Mullets just standing there going, and I was like dancing and I turned around, I was like, oh,
stop.
I was like, are we ready to go? And they're like, yeah.
Oh my God.
I was like, that's so embarrassing, because I mean we'd only just started dating, like we weren't even officially like a couple, so it wasn't like something dorky I could get away with, because I'm like, yeah, we're officially a couple, you have to deal with this. Yeah. Like I think it might have been the first moment that he was like, so what other music do you listen to? Like, because it's always been a big thing that we've bonded over. We always like go to live gigs and stuff. Yeah. But it's more of like the alternative rock sort of variety. And I was like, yeah, I actually really like 80s and 90s music. It's like my jam. I love to dance to it. It'll get me on the dance floor. Yeah.
I love that he's stuck around. That is so cool.
I know, right? But yeah, then all the secrets came out of the closet that I was also obsessed with like 80s hair guitar.
Oh gosh,
like, and power ballads and stuff. And he was just like, what?
I love that you are, because man, soul sisters, because I am too. Like, and I actually go around I go with my headphones around the house now, so no one knows what I'm listening to. And
I should have been doing that. And then they'll be like, oh, what are you listening to? I'll be like, oh, you know, it's just the latest, I don't know, super cool band.
Could you imagine if I told my faux husband Simon, who's a rock god, you know, got a band and, you know, lead guitarist and singer. Can you imagine if he's like, what are you listening to? Oh, just a bit of Careless Whisper, you know. Could you imagine? Oh my God,
Careless Whisper is so good. It's so bad, it's so good.
It's so bad, it's so good, exactly. Oh, funny.
Oh, love it. All right. What wild road? Wild roads. Welcome to the wild roads. What wild road are we going down today?
Well, speaking about uncomfortable, I think it'd be really cool to talk about the uncomfortableness that gets thrown in, like, you know, the big uncomfortableness that we push through, as well as the little micro ones, like you mentioned before, like that, you know, we get thrown at every day. And what makes our wild road a wild road is pushing through that uncomfortableness of the things that could be cringeworthy, the things that make us who we are. And I think I mentioned about escaping the mundane, but there's just no possible way we can actually live a mundane life by pushing through this uncomfortableness. Does that make much sense?
Oh, totally. Totally. A lot of what I do is uncomfortable. I think when being a personal brand and having a business that is an extension of who you are is super uncomfortable, because you're bearing your soul. Like you're just showing up and being yourself. Like it sounds so romantic when you're like, oh, I just want a business where I could just be myself and people pay me money for it. And it's like, yes, that would be ultimate dream life scenario, right? Just doing things that are just who we are. And it is, and it's amazing, but it's super uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable. There's a lot of things that we do like every day that is uncomfortable. And I think one of the things that I talk about a lot is, and especially with like, you know, being in photos and being a photographer and somebody who advocates for taking self-portraits and being able to, you know, witness your own beauty and seeing it as an art form and something to celebrate yourself rather than, you know, an egotistical thing or a thing just to do to get engagement. Like it's a whole spiritual practice for me, is that it's uncomfortable to see yourself. It's uncomfortable to witness yourself, and you're doing that to be able to help other people. I see leadership as, you know, you get to go first. If you're wanting to help people to empower themselves, to you know, be in their power, to do their own life's work, to help the people that they're here to help by showing themselves, you get to go first. That's you know, what I see a mentor as or a leader as, is somebody who goes first. So if you're asking, you know, your clients to get uncomfortable, you get to go first. When you do that and make that a habit to get uncomfortable,
I love you saying this.
It actually builds a muscle that where you get familiar with the feeling of being uncomfortable. It doesn't mean the uncomfortability gets any easier to actually be in it. It's just that you get familiar with being uncomfortable. So I suppose maybe the point at where you feel that resistance to doing something, you're like, oh, that's going to feel uncomfortable. You kind of shorten that amount of time of you having that little freak out beforehand going, oh, I really want to do that, but it's going to be uncomfortable. And then you just jump in. Like you get familiar with that feeling and you know that it's actually something that your soul is pointing you towards rather than, you know, something that has to be feared. Because I think as soon as some people feel that resistance, they're like, oh, I don't know, it doesn't feel right now. Whereas it's tuning into going, yeah, it's going to feel uncomfortable, but it actually does feel like the right thing. Like my soul's pushing me or turning me towards this thing, and it's saying, yeah, go. This is where you got to go. And you're kind of like, oh, I don't know, it's going to be uncomfortable. Is it safe? I've done that before. I don't know. When I feel that, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Let's go.
Let's go. Exactly. That's right. And I love you talking about this in two ways, because the first one I feel when you spoke that is like, yes, we do need to face ego sometimes. We need to face what's difficult, what's hard, what's uncomfortable, which is probably sometimes cringeworthy with our development about ourselves. It's just like there's a mirror up in front of us and we go, oh, I see what you're doing here. You know, you need to, this is what we need to push through and learn to be able to lead. Yeah. But to be the best version of ourselves. So it's kind of like we need to learn how to communicate a different way, or it might be that to show up a different way, because what we're doing right now isn't working. And so that's when we need to push forward and go through that uncomfortableness to get to the other side of amazingness. Because, you know, if we all sat in that chair and stayed where we are, you know, we don't seem to get anywhere, and the ride's not very fun. But the other thing that you said about leading and going first, that I'm just like, yes, because as coaches, as mentors, we don't get to preach to people. I feel that we don't get to preach people, and the way we lead is not by telling people what to do, but leading by example. And going through the things so they get to have the confidence, they get to have the inspiration and the motivation to do exactly the same. And that's what the difference is. And what I find the most powerful in this industry and in personal development, in coaching, in mentorship, is the leaders that are actually doing the thing. They've done the things. 100%. They've faced the things. They've gone through the cringeworthy. They've gone through the uncomfortableness. They've sat in it. They rode through it, and they got to the other side, which was pretty damn amazing. And I think that's important. And I see the preachiness. So is that a word? That's, you know, that it's just doesn't feel right. It's just like, you can tell me what to do, but how do I go through this? You know, how do I go through this uncomfortableness? Okay, I'll dodge it. I'll go around the uncomfortableness and hopefully get to where you are. And it doesn't work that way. It does not work that way.
No, that's the thing. Like, there is a lot of people telling people what to do. Like, do this, otherwise you're not going to get this. You have to do it this way. You have to, like, it's so much more powerful to just show people like what you're doing and how it's working for you. That shows people that by following what feels good for you, that's what actually works. It's like you following your soul. And I think the true power in being a mentor is holding people through that, not necessarily telling them this is how I did it and this is what's going to work for you, but it's holding them in the, okay, where is your soul leading you to? All right, let's go there. And, and you hold them while I go through that, because it's uncomfortable.
You're right. It's like you don't give them the blueprint of yourself. You can't give your clients a blueprint of Shona Lee or a blueprint of Paula I, because we don't even have that yet, because we're still on our journey and there's no blueprint of ourselves on the market. And so you can't give someone that and go do that and then come back to me and tell me what your results are.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that way.
Yeah, there can be similarities. Like, I know, I was in a client session this morning, and something that I did this week, she had a very similar experience. And she's like, oh my gosh, your post. And like, I had a post this week that like was super uncomfortable to post, but my soul was like, do it. I was like, what? No! This is
Tell us about the post.
I'm a crazy person.
Tell us about the post, because I've read it and I would love everyone to hear what it was. It's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
It's uncomfortable, but it's amazing.
Yeah. I actually haven't gone back to the comments yet, because I've been too it was one of those posts where I posted it and then pretty much like threw my phone away and ran away from the internet. Energetically, I was like, I don't want to know what people think about me after this. But it was one of those moments where like I was journaling for pages and pages and pages, and all this stuff was coming through. And what I had asked before this all came through, the night before this all happened, I went to bed. That makes more sense. I went to bed. And in my journal, I had asked the question, show me my next right move. Because I had done a bit of a journaling session, and I was like, okay, I'm kind of feeling a little bit like I'm ebbing, my creativity is not flowing as much. I was like, what's next? Like, I feel something's shifting within me. And like before, I used to always panic when I had that feeling. I was like, it's funky. I need to get back to like when I was in flow. Like, I know how to be in flow. Like, get me back there. Whereas now I'm like, okay, we're in an ebb. Something's brewing. Something's coming. I'm expanding into somewhere else. Like, something new is coming. I always ask for this. I always ask for adventure. I always ask for magic. I always ask for, surprises. I always ask for, amazing things to happen. And in order for that to happen, things have to shift and change. So you just ride that wild road of like the ebbs and flows. So the night before I had asked, what's my next right move? Because I didn't know what it was. Logically, whenever I think logically, that's always me out of my body and in my head, and doing things out of fear and doing things because I think that's what I should be doing, what everybody else is doing. And I get in like that mindset of like, if I don't do this, then it's not going to happen. And it's kind of like tense energy, and I don't like that. Whereas my body always knows, my soul always knows. I get to trust that. So anywho, I went to bed. I had this wicked, weird dream. It had crocodiles in it. I'll explain the dream. It was a whole thing. So this is the whole dream that happened, right? I am with my husband and my 2 kids, and we were looking down at the grass. We were standing on the grass, and we could see this teeny tiny little baby crocodile, like much smaller than a crocodile usually is when it's born. It was like the size of my finger, pretty much. Like, it was tiny. Yeah. And we were like, oh my God, it's a cute little crocodile. It's so sweet. Look at it. It's so cute. It's just like full, like going nuts over this cute crocodile. And I remember I got my phone out and I started videoing this crocodile on my phone. And then I said, I wonder where its mummy is. And then as soon as I said that, I lifted my phone up as I was watching it go into the water. And as it slipped into the water out of the depths, this like ginormous croc started to rise up, and I was like, oh, it's Mom, it's right there, like, get back. And so I like pushed everybody back. This ginormous croc, like it would have been one of, you know, like 5 meters long or something, like a giant croc, leaps out of the water, has this big open mouth, and it's like snapped at us. And I was like, oh, okay, she's not happy. And then she was so big that like when she came out and started walking on land, she was moving really, really slow, because crocs are quick in the water, but the bigger they are, the slower they are on land. So she was like slowly like walking towards us, and she had this energy of like, don't touch my baby, like get away from here. And we're like, okay, we're gonna go, like sort of backing up. And then the crocodile eventually went back into the water. But then for us to leave where we were, we had to walk along the riverbank. And so she was like swimming next to us while we're walking. We're like, okay, we're leaving. It's okay. We're all cool. Like nothing's going to happen here. We're getting out. And then the next thing I know, I see my husband in the water swimming behind the crocodile. And I was like, what are you doing? Get out of the water. So I was panicking. I was like yelling. I was like, get out of the water. What are you doing? Like this. And I was holding onto the hands of my 2 kids on either side, like squeezing their hands. And then the next thing I know, you know, in movies, like shark movies and crocodile movies, where like when somebody gets attacked under the water and it goes all bubbly and like,
my goodness.
That's what happened. I was like, oh my God, he's gone. He's gone. The crocodile's got him. And I was like screaming.
Oh no.
And I finally stopped screaming and I looked into the water and I could see this giant rock. And my husband was like curled up in a ball behind this rock. And he was like limp. And I'm like, oh my God, he's dead. And I'd let out this big like scream, and I was screaming for ages. And then he eventually like turns his head and looks up at me and then calmly climbs out of the water. And I was like, what are you doing in the water? And then as he turned around and looked at me, he turned into my daughter. And she had like this little bruise on the side of her face, and then she had like this little bite mark on her arm, which wasn't like, it was kind of like, you know how a kid will bite you as hard as they can, at least like the little teeth indent. It looked like that on her arm, right? And I said to her, I was like, oh my gosh, did the crocodile bite you? Are you okay? And she looks up at me and she says, I'm fine, Mummy. And then that's when I sat up in bed and I was like, oh, what was that? I was like, what is that?
Oh, wow.
And I looked at my phone and it was like 4 to 5 in the morning. And I usually get up around 5 a.m. anyway. So I was like, okay, all right, I'm definitely not going back to sleep after that. So I went out into the lounge room and I got my journal out and I was just like, what was that dream? And I just started journaling. And I went through like, you're not showing people the depths of who you are, like go deeper. And a lot of ideas for like posts and stuff came through and things I get to talk about now. So it was kind of like my next right move is actually to go deeper within like who I am and to share more. Like I think I'm pretty open and I'm sharing a lot already. And it was kind of like the message was like, you haven't even started yet. Like go deeper. Then it was like all this stuff was coming out. I wrote like 15 pages or something. It was ridiculous. It was just all coming through. That's and fantastic. Then eventually I got an image of my brother. So I had a younger brother who passed away when I was 12 and he was 9. So it was many, many years ago. And I remember I wrote, does Chris want to talk to me? Who is my brother? And I got this like, yes. And I was like, okay. And then I started channeling a conversation with him. And I was like, what is going on? Like, wow, I've never had a conversation with him like that before, but I have felt his presence before. Like I will quite often get like, I can hear somebody say something in my ear and it's really loud, like they're right next to me. And I feel like that is him. And also whenever something's strange, like I'll think about him and then something strange, like a picture will fall off the wall and I'm like, oh my God, was that you? And I get this like full body chill of like, yes. And I'm like, oh, but I never actually thought like, is there something you want to tell me? And I got this like whole rush of a conversation that came out and it felt like he's been trying to talk to me for ages, but I haven't actually like kind of went, okay, let's have the conversation. It was all about him, because I asked like, why did you die so young? Because that was something that was just I'm like, it didn't make sense. And he was always the type of person that like people were like, oh my gosh, he lives life to the fullest. He's going to go places. He's going to be big in this world. Like his energy and his presence was so huge. Yeah, the response that I got was that he was ready to leave and that I needed that uncomfortability. And I was like, what? And it was like, you know, people thought that I was going to be great, but he said, I was here for you. Like, you're going to be great. And I was like, what? Oh my God, I'm going to cry again.
Oh, babe.
But it was a whole, like, it was a conversation around, and then he said to me, don't keep the depth, like, don't keep the things that you're wanting to say submerged with the crocodiles. That was like the end of the conversation. I was like, what? That was the dream I just had. Like, what's going on? And then the funny thing was, when my husband had woken up that morning and we were in the kitchen having breakfast together, I told him about the dream that I had the night before. And he was like, what? Oh my God, I had a dream about crocodiles last night too. And I was like, what? And like, he's the type of person, he's like, he never remembers his dreams.
What?
And he's like, I never remember my dreams, but last night I dreamt about a crocodile. He said, I was looking over the edge of a riverbank. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, I saw this crocodile in the water and I remember thinking, oh, that must be a baby crocodile. It's so little. But he said, as it jumped out of the water and snapped at him, he's like, it was this ginormous crocodile. I'm like, oh, that happened in my dream. Like, I was like, how are we having the same dream?
This is giving me goosebumps. Oh my goodness. Like, this is powerful stuff, man.
The call that my soul was wanting, because I was like, what do I do with this? And my soul was like, share this. And I was like, what? Share a crazy crocodile dream and a conversation with your dead brother. Like, and I was like, what? So
but it's uncomfortable.
It was so uncomfortable. But after I didn't share like the whole 1,000 pages of journaling that I did.
No.
But I knew what I needed to share out of that. It was part of that conversation I had with him. And partly about, I didn't go into the details of the dream, but there was just stuff about the dream to give it context and things. And and then I told my husband at 6 o'clock in the morning, something that came to me was about crocodiles and the clairvoyancy, they're primal creatures. They've lived like 50 million years or something. Like they've been since the dinosaurs sort of thing. Yes. And so when they're in the water, like they haven't actually evolved much over time as their being, but they hold a lot of depth and knowledge and wisdom, and that comes when they're in the water. Like there's something to do with water and wisdom and all that sort of stuff. So I ended up having a bath at 6 a.m. in the dark. And so and that's where it came to me. It's like, share this. And I was like, oh, really? It's so uncomfortable.
It's such an important message, and your brother coming to you and telling you, there's so much more to you. I mean, I feel like we can all see that too. It's just like, Paula, share what you have. There's so much wisdom. There's so much, like, you have this innate ability to talk to souls, like living souls as well, to my soul, to all the women that feel like they need to be heard. And, I think that's a beautiful message. It's just share more, share more, share more. And it's something for all of us, and I think, when it's uncomfortable, like, I mean, I want to ask you right now, you shared it, you haven't looked at the messages yet about the comments. I've seen the comments, so I know how amazing it is. How do you feel now? I want to ask you, how do you feel now, given that a couple of days ago you had that dream, you shared, I saw you share on a live that you had a conversation with your brother that's passed. And that's something that was really uncomfortable to talk about because you were worried about, not worried, but, you had these feelings, how people will see me as crazy or whatever. Yeah. But how do you feel now? You haven't seen the response.
No, I haven't.
And I think that's a good thing. Like, how do you feel without seeing the responses? You don't know what's out there.
Exactly. Because that's the thing, right? We get this instant gratification when we post stuff on social media. Like, we're like, how many people liked it? How many people responded?
Exactly.
And we go to you, sort of thing. So I think with these, and I've done this before, sharing something that felt really uncomfortable. And I'm like, okay, just walk away. Like, you've done it. You did the hard bit. We can come back and look at this later, when like that's sort of like settled in your psyche a bit. Because it felt like relief, actually. It felt super scary writing it, and like my heart was pounding, and I was like, you're not going to post this. Like, seriously, this looks like crazy as. And I kept thinking about, like, okay, my family are going to read this, my friends, the people from high school are going to read this, like the school mums are going to read this, like all the random people who you know, you think about when you do these things and you're like, what's this person going to think of me? But then also I do have a lot of friends on Facebook who are, you know, entrepreneurial brand building women who are very much like, I knew that this was for them. And I'm like, I have to move beyond this comfortability to share it for them, because it's not only my soul telling me what to do for my own journey, but I do my journey for them. Like, I do that so that I can be a leader and lead other women through this as well. So I'm like, it's not just about me and how uncool I look right now. It's like I'm doing it for service. So it actually, after I posted it, I was just kind of like, oh, thank goodness. Like, I don't have to think about posting that anymore. Like, kind of like the relief of like, I've done it. Fine. I'm in the water. Like, I just got to swim out now. It's cool. Right. I'll just, you know, I've already jumped. I've done the hard bit. Like,
and on the other side of this, like you saying, you know, it's uncool, but man, I was on that live when you were talking about it. I've seen all the comments, and like you said, you were doing it for others that needed it. And it's just like, I just see this brilliance. You were cool as, man. Like, that was cool. Like, this stuff we talk about, like, who wants to talk about the damn weather? You know, it's like, this is real life. This is stuff. This is the coolest thing ever. I love it.
Yeah, that live stream that I talked about, it was inside of like one of my programs. So it was a closed live, so I felt quite comfortable to share it in there, because I was like, oh, everybody here gets it. And it was just so beautiful to have that response from them all, like just being like, that's incredible. This is like, you know, you've inspired me, or you know, I've had similar experiences, sort of thing. Like, just to have that connection was amazing. And with, like, back to my client that I had this morning, and she was just like, I had a conversation with somebody who I loved that had passed as well. And she's like, it was uncanny. Like, I had this experience, and then the next day you posted this, and I was like, what? So I was like, oh, it was so for you as well. Like,
isn't it beautiful how the world works and the webs of it all and the intertwining? And I just love it. It's so damn cool. And I love this topic, getting uncomfortable. It feels murky, it feels icky, but if you've got support while you do it, man, it's the best ride. It's the best wild road to go down.
Well, that's the thing, because that morning, that was Monday morning that all happened. And 7 o'clock on Monday mornings, I have my call with our mentor, Jana. And I was like, okay, I just had the strangest morning. And I told her about my dream, and I told her about the journaling that had come up. And I read out what my brother had said to me, and I was like sobbing. I could barely get the words out when I was saying it to her. And it was just so beautiful that she was there to be able to hold me. And I knew, like, that feeling, and it was kind of like, okay, I know that I'm held through this. And I mean, I know how, like, you know, you and I, Shona, are inside the same mastermind group together, which is run by Jana too. And, you know, I went in there and I shared it with you guys as well. And I was like, this was my debrief from this morning. Like, what's been going on in the past couple of hours. And just to know that you all were holding me, like, energetically, because we're all over the world in that mastermind.
Exactly, we are.
Having that support, and just knowing that, you know, I'm going to be okay no matter what other people think about the work that I'm doing. It's like, I've got the support of you guys, and you know everything about it. You know the whole, you know, story. And I love when we go in there and we share things in there, and, you know, someone else in the group's like, you need to share that. And we're like, what? No one. Like, it's like, it's so amazing to be able to like kind of push each other to do that too, because we're like, we've got this coming through. It's like, share it. It's like, no way, because that feels uncomfortable. And like, I don't know, what are people going to think? And you'll be like, I think it's brilliant and it's amazing. Go do it. People need this. Because sometimes we don't see that for ourselves. We just go, oh, it's icky and it's uncomfortable and it's weird and people are going to be like, you're crazy. I'm not going to share that. People are going to think I'm off my rocker.
And, you know, there's life gets in the way as well. When you got that support and that little bit of push to go, share it. It needs to be told. This story needs to be told. Because sometimes if we don't, it's amazing and you feel an energy around it. You feel like it is something that's worth sharing. But then, you know, then you got to go do school drop off, and then all of a sudden you've got to run some errands and you go to the post office, and then all of a sudden, you know, your friends call and you say, hey, let's catch up, and we're like, yeah, let's catch up. So you go do that and the story's lost and it's diluted and it's gone. Yeah. And that message doesn't get to be shared, and it's a bit of a shame. It's kind of like when we have that support system and we do share it and then we go do the things, it's like this beautiful journey of what am I trying to say? Of documenting your life to be able to be the leader. So if we can't really lead if they don't know where our messages are, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you don't know what it's all leading to, though, that's part of the thing, is that often we don't actually know how close or how far away we are from the journey that it takes us on, because it's not logical. Like, you go on your own growth path and it's like you get to go through and like grow through the things the way that you get to be able to get there for yourself, so you're in your power when you get there.
Absolutely.
And a lot of the time we do share things and we're like, I don't quite know where this is going, but this is what needs to come through me right now. Yeah. And so often that will happen. And then I'll have somebody send me a PM. They're like, oh my God, I so needed to hear this today, blah, 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 blah. I'm like, that's why it came through. Because you and I are supposed to have this connection right now about this thing or whatever it is. So yeah. And it's so uncomfortable.
It is. It's very uncomfortable. But you like you said at the start, you get a muscle, you get a strengthening of being able to sit in the uncomfortableness and push through that. And it gets a little bit easier. It's never easy. It's never, we don't feel anything, but it gets easier to know the trust that you're going to be okay.
Yeah. It's always a wild road.
It is.
It's always a wild road.
I love that.
It's always going to be okay. It gets to be what it gets to be. And that's why hindsight's so beautiful, because then you look back and you're like, oh, that's what that was. That was really cool.
That's it. Well, I love this. This has been an amazing convo. I loved it, Paula. Epic. And thank you. Sharing that is hard and yes, uncomfortable, but man, it was beautiful and powerful. And I hope it gives people confidence to be able to share their stories too, because there's a lot of healing within that. And I think it's really cool. Yeah. So we'll see you all next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Wow. Wow.